The FBI violated the Constitution.
Mr. Reagan.
So we just found out, this is crazy, we just found out that the FBI instructed Facebook to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story. Now, there are so many big stories dropping today, but I think the most important is Zuckerberg's revelation that the FBI essentially instructed Facebook to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story.
There was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York
we
Post.
had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
I mean, basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. If something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased.
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, if they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
I don't remember if it was that specifically.
Now, this is something that has been covered a lot on Fox News, but it's being overshadowed quite a bit by the affidavit release, which, even though it's heavily redacted, even though it has given us zero new information, it's something that has been so anticipated by the American public. Leftists want it to be something that clearly incriminates Trump. Conservatives want it to be something that clearly incriminates the FBI. It's so anticipated that the media kind of has an obligation to cover that story ad nauseum. But it is a shame, because this Zuckerberg story, I think, is far more important, truly a critical story. Now, Facebook released a statement in which they said that this isn't news. Zuckerberg and the FBI have both discussed this before in congressional hearings. Okay, well, clearly we missed that, because whether or not you actually have mentioned it before, this still indicates that the FBI instructed Facebook to suppress the speech of American citizens, a gross violation of the Constitution. Now, I don't know if this was supposedly discussed in a public hearing or if it was discussed in a closed-door meeting. I don't know if the way that it was expressed by the FBI or Zuckerberg in previous iterations presented it as clearly as it was presented here on Joe Rogan's show, but Zuckerberg was stating it very clearly here for the first time that I'm aware of, stating that the reason that Facebook censored the Hunter Biden story is that the FBI contacted them, warning them of Russian disinformation, that this was a direct response to FBI influence. And one might make the case that this was acceptable because, perhaps Facebook should suppress misinformation or disinformation coming from a foreign government. This is not illegal if it's information coming from a foreign government, right? Okay, but we're not talking about information coming from a foreign government. We're talking about information being expressed by everyday Americans. Even if that information originated with a foreign government, the only expression of ideas, communication, or transmission of data of any kind that the FBI is permitted to influence Facebook to suppress would be that which comes directly from that foreign government itself. So if Russia expresses some false propaganda about the war through their news agency, RT, for instance, and the FBI tells Facebook to censor that video from RT, well, that would be legal, I imagine. But if an American citizen repeats the propaganda that they heard on RT, well, the FBI cannot tell Facebook to censor that. They can't. That's illegal. And it looks like that is exactly what's happened here. In fact, it's not exactly what's happened here, because none of the information that was expressed by everyday Americans about the Hunter Biden laptop did come from Russia. It, in fact, originated right here in America because that laptop was real. Okay, it was not Russian disinformation. That was Hunter Biden's real laptop with real Hunter Biden stuff in it, which really was incriminating against Hunter Biden and the president, Joe Biden himself. Now, in light of this revelation, in light of the revelation that the FBI has violated the Constitution, what needs to be done? Well, I'm about to say some extreme shit, so strap in, folks. That in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. Now, Bank of America has just lowered its 2022 forecast for the S&P 500 by a whopping 900 points to 3,600, saying that we are headed for a recession this year. Shocker, I know. It said the new year-end target is the lowest on the street. This is not good news for those of you stuck in equities or anything tied to the stock market. Thousands of people have put their trust in Noble Gold to prevent losing money in the financial storm that is brewing, and you can join them by calling their expert team. Noble Gold was recently voted the #1 gold company in the country by Consumer Affairs. There's no call centers, no scripted response, no bull, just a straight, honest run-through of your options so that you can decide. And by the way, they're giving away this beautiful gold 1/10 ounce American Eagle proof coin with every qualifying IRA or 401k rollover this month. You cannot go wrong with Noble Gold. Call the team now at 877-646-5347 to find out more or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. So, now in light of the revelation that the FBI was willfully violating the American Constitution, what needs to be done? 1. After Republicans take control of the House and the Senate, we need a full investigation into exactly what happened. Who contacted the FBI? What exactly did they say? I assume that such phone calls are recorded. We need those recordings. We need to know every agent that contacted Facebook and everyone who authorized that communication and who authorized the false warning against Russian misinformation and disinformation that led to the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story. Such an investigation must also uncover the communications between the FBI and all other social media companies, Twitter and YouTube in particular, but all others as well. 2, all agents involved must be fired, arrested, and tried in court for violating the First Amendment rights of every American using Facebook and all other social media companies that were instructed by the FBI to suppress political ideas. And there is even more to this because the White House admitted last year that they instructed Facebook to suppress the expression of American citizens with regard to what they deem to be COVID disinformation.
We are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff, but also members of our COVID-19 team. In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken, or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook.
This is not the only story that he has censored. He censored the Wuhan lab leak theory on behalf of Dr. Fauci for more than a year. There are emails going back between the two of them saying, we'd love to help you out. Dr. Fauci says, great. He wanted the lab leak theory buried because he was, helpful in giving that lab grant money from the NIH.
It wasn't just the Wuhan lab leak theory that was censored by social media. Now we know the CDC was on the horn with these social media companies saying, no, this comes through, we knock that down. Vaccine, this comes through, you knock that down. They were controlling Twitter. They were controlling social medias to make sure that dissent was not allowed.
Now, this, again, is a clear violation of the Constitution. The Biden administration cannot do this, and yet this is something that has not been investigated. Nobody has faced any consequence for instructing Facebook in this way. And so again, I say, after Republicans take control of the Congress, we need a full investigation into the Biden administration and those who conceived of this strategy. Those who cleared it, those who ordered it, and those who executed it all need to be arrested and tried in court for violating the First Amendment rights of every American. And I said it before, but it bears repeating. If the FBI was willing to instruct Facebook to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story, what other social media sites did they contact? And along that same line, we need to know what else has the FBI instructed social media companies to censor. Like I said, the White House has admitted to suppressing COVID stuff. Did the government also suppress ideas about the 2020 election fraud? Ideas about January 6th? I'd bet money that they have. And if so, can I sue the federal government for suppressing my freedom of speech? Because I've been censored for that stuff. Can I sue YouTube and Facebook and Twitter for suppressing my ideas about these things? I think I should be able to. Any law firms that want to do this on my behalf, I would not mind. But look, more importantly than the question of potential litigation, the American people deserve to have a truly free and fair election. We must not have FBI interference in our elections. We must have access to all ideas around election fraud and January 6th and COVID and every other political idea. The suppression of ideas by the federal government using the excuse that they are combating foreign disinformation, this is a dangerous habit and a massive violation of the civil rights of all Americans. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for me. And remember, it is not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. Now...
President, in talking about the continuing recession,